September has arrived, which means it's time to start our run of season previews for the Dallas Stars. Today, we begin with Sam Steel and Colin Blackwell, two important fixtures to the Stars' fourth line this season.
You're Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans. I'm Joey Erickson, former producer 105 Through the Fan. Please be sure to subscribe. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. And as always, thank you so much for making us a part of your day and making us your first listen. We are just a little over a month away from meaningful hockey games for the Dallas Stars. Training camp gets underway in just a few weeks. We're still awaiting the release of the schedule. I know the Stars are supposed to be in Traverse City as well in the middle of the month, so a lot of moving pieces currently, but I figured it was no better time to start our season previews. And I wanted to begin with Sam Steel and Colin Blackwell. Yeah, not the most important or flashy players on the Dallas Stars, but two really key players. And these are the type of players you need on a Stanley Cup champion. Role guys, players that understand their roles, and Sam Steel and Colin Blackwell, I think, fit that mold perfectly. So we're going to begin with these two players on today's episode of Locked On Stars. Please hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, never miss an episode of Locked On Stars. It is very much appreciative. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. So we'll begin with Sam Steel because he ended up becoming a rather important player for the Dallas Stars this past season. He came in the offseason after not re-signing with Minnesota, which I think scratched a lot of heads. Even Wild fans would say they would have liked to bring Steel back. He just provides an edge and really good bottom 6 minutes. And when Steel came into the fray, we thought, yeah, he would get some playing time. He would rotate in and out with Dellandrea and Craig Smith and Radek Faksa, but that was really never the case. Steel came in and sort of established his job on the fourth line away from Ty Dellandrea, who, of course, departed in the offseason and is now in San Jose. Craig Smith has departed as well on that fourth line. Radek Faksa, of course, who was traded to St. Louis in the offseason. So Steel is not only going to be an important fixture on the fourth line, his job is pretty much secured. You're not going to see a ton of healthy scratches out of Sam Steel this next season, and that didn't happen last year as well. He played a career-high 77 games. He had 9 goals and 15 assists for 24 points. And funny enough, when you look at his numbers from his last season in Minnesota to his numbers in Dallas, his minutes actually declined, his point production declined, even though his amount of games went up. And he ended up playing in 77 games, played in all 19 playoff games as well. And he gave Dallas some speed down the middle, which ended up being quite important, especially against Edmonton in that Western Conference final, because Pete DeBoer was looking for some speed down the middle, and Radek Faksa wasn't going to provide any offense at that point, and Steel could at least chip in, or at least you would hope he could chip in offensively as well. And this fourth line has sort of gone away from being that prototypical fourth checking line, right? The FCC line of Faksa, Como, and Cogliano, which if they gave you a little juice offensively, it was a good thing. It was just a cherry on top, but you weren't expecting them to deliver, on a nightly basis. Since Pete DeBoer's arrived, he's kind of gone away from that, and he's looking for all 4 lines to produce. And this next season, I think Sam Steel will be an important fixture in that sort of approach to Pete DeBoer's fourth line. It's fast. It revolves around puck possession and trying to create chances. And if you look at Smith's advanced numbers, it's nothing incredible by any stretch, but I think you could also point to the fact that Steel was playing the majority of the season with Radek Faksa, who, of course, is well known as a well below average offensive player. That is going to hamper some of his chances. His goal force percentage was about 45%. His goals per 60 was 0.49. I mentioned that went down from 0.59 when he was in Minnesota. He ended up eclipsing 10 goals in 2022 and 23 with Minnesota. So we'll see if he improves slightly in his production. I think he will, just based off the fact that Steel can also serve as a forward for Pete DeBoer that he can use up and down the lineup. If they have injuries, we saw when Matt Duchene, even Tyler Seguin, when he went down during stretches last year, Steel could kind of fit in and play alongside somebody like Matt Duchene and Mason Marchment. It's not perfect chemistry by any means, but he can be moved up and down the lineup, especially if you're just looking for something different. It'll be really, really intriguing this season because there are just so many good NHL forwards the Dallas Stars have. I mean, they have 14 guys that you can fit into the mold, and this isn't even talking about Dadonov. So how much is Steel really going to be able to get moved up and down the lineup? He'll probably stay on that fourth line, but he probably will get more minutes this season because of his ability to be a really, really strong penalty killer. He was actually third among forwards this past season in penalty kill minutes because Radek Faksa took some time off there and he got an opportunity instead of Dellandrea to be really a number one penalty killer. And now with the departures of all those guys, Sam Steel is kind of your guy. He also was paired with Wyatt Johnston at points in the postseason last year. So those are two guys that may eat up a lot of minutes. Steel averaged over 13 minutes last season. I think you're going to see that creep into the 15 range because he will truly be the number one penalty killer for Dallas. And of course, Johnson can fit into the mix. Ben and Seguin can help you there. Rope Hintz. We know Stankoven can kill penalties. Bort killed some penalties when he was in the AHL. So I think you can expect big things from Sam Steel here in 2024-25. Look, I would not be shocked if he sniffs around 15 goals this next season. He gets a few more extra minutes here and there, and he will be sort of driving the offense. He can take draws as well. He was right around 45% last season. He wasn't great in the dots, but he'll probably get to play down the middle, and then Blackwell will be on his wing along with Dadonov or whatever rotation or wing Pete DeBoer wants to use. But I was a big fan when they brought Steel in, and he came in last season at $850,000. He gets paid a bit more here this year. He signed a one-year deal at $1.2 million, but just a great player to bring back. And you need guys like this that can chip in offensively, but you know you're going to get good shifts out of him. I mean, he was a complete net zero. His plus minus was zero. Usually doesn't give up a ton, and he can provide some pop on in the bottom six. And I think he'll play a pivotal role on this fourth line next season. So I'm really intrigued to see how he gets used. If he does garner a few more minutes, you would think with the departures of other fourth line guys, but he kind of fit right in and he established himself as an everyday player. Look, I argued at points that Dellandrea needed to play a bit more, but you can't knock the fact that Sam Steel, for what they were asking of him, was just doing his job on a nightly basis. And he's still young. I mean, at 26 years old, sort of entering his prime. He's not the 30th overall pick that he was when he was drafted in the first round by the Ducks. He's had an interesting journey, but he's a quality player for your bottom six. And maybe his second year in Dallas, being comfortable in the system, being comfortable in the locker room, will we'll see an improvement in some of his offensive numbers. I think if Steele can get into that 35, 40 point range, that's going to be huge for Dallas because they already are pretty much set up front in their top six, and really their top nine. You can kind of figure out what they're going to do. I mean, they're returning pretty much everybody. This fourth line is going to be a lot different of a look, especially without Faksa. You're probably going to see some more chances created by this fourth line. Are they going to be as effective defensively? I would probably argue yes, because they're going to be more mobile. And if you can play in the offensive zone a little bit more, that means the other team's not shooting on your net. So, Sam Steele is just one of those guys, kind of a glue guy, especially on that fourth line. And I've decently high expectations for Steele. You know what you're going to get in a player like him is sort of where this is going. You consistently, night in, night out, you get the same player. He hustles. He's pretty good on the wall. And when he got chances to move up in the lineup, he took advantage of them and did good things. So Sam Steele back on a 1-year deal. And he has a secure spot this season. And that wasn't necessarily the case heading into last year. He sort of had to fight his way into his spot, and then he held on to it for pretty much the entire season, played a career high 77 games, as I mentioned. So there's a little season preview of Sam Steele. Now let's move over to who I believe is the Sam Steele signing of this offseason, in Colin Blackwell. Talked a bit about him when we signed him just a few months ago. Let's dive in to a little bit more of Colin Blackwell and what he's going to bring to the Dallas Stars. We'll do that in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events faster and easier. Game Time Picks filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. That's what Game Time is for. It takes all the guesswork out of buying tickets. It makes it easier, and you can save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, you name it, they have it on Game Time. So go ahead and take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time this upcoming hockey season. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNHL. That's LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. Thank you for making Locked On Stars your first listen. Make Locked On NHL your second listen of the day. Locked On NHL provides you with a national perspective on all things NHL each and every day, with national experts and local insight on every team in the league. Available on YouTube. It's also available wherever you get your podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. So we shift over to Colin Blackwell. And yes, Colin Blackwell is going to be my Sam Steele signing of this season. He's obviously a bit older at 31 years of age. He signed a 1-year deal for $775,000. He's been in and out of certain lineups throughout his career, and he's dealt with massive injuries. I mentioned that in the player profile we did a few months back, that he dealt with some concussions and head injuries during his time in college, eventually broke into the league, had a big year with New York in 2020-21, where he was actually playing alongside Artemi Panarin, and had a nice year, 22 points in 47 games. Eventually was moved to Seattle. Then he found himself in Toronto. Then the last 2 seasons he was in Chicago, but he dealt with injuries throughout his past 2 seasons there as well. He came back in the middle of last season in 44 games. He had 8 goals and 4 assists. So pretty decent numbers in a small sample size. But Blackwell is sort of your hungry, gritty, sort of fleet-footed type fourth line player like a Sam Steele. You just sort of know what you're going to get out of him. Hopefully he can stay healthy here in Dallas. And I mentioned it as well a few months ago. I'm pretty bullish on his opportunity here in Dallas. He'll get some minutes certainly on this fourth line, and he does have top six experience during his time. That's not going to be the case here in Dallas, but they're not going to be asking a ton out of Colin Blackwell. And frankly, it's what the Stars have done really well with over the past few seasons, bringing in players like Matt Duchene, who were at one time the guy on their certain club, and they come to Dallas and they don't have to carry that load offensively or carry that load leadership wise. They can just focus on what they do well, meshing in with the lineup, and usually that transfers into improved production. Look at Jamie Benn over the past few seasons, played a bit less, but he's scoring more. So we'll see what Blackwell can bring to this lineup. But number one, he brings some edge to their game, and that's something they certainly need after last season. He will be a more prototypical fourth line checker for Dallas, and that could pair really nicely with Sam Steele. These are two guys that can really, really forecheck, and maybe that'll be the perfect complement to a player like Dadonov, who it can kind of sneaky beat you with his speed and his foot speed. We saw times last year, he just gets shot out of a cannon. So Steele and Blackwell are a pair that can really get on the forecheck heavy. They can cause havoc, create turnovers, and Dadonov can be seen as someone that can finish off some of those plays offensively and find the back of the net. But Blackwell's an interesting player. And look, I said about Sam Steele last season, I think this is a guy that is going to turn into being a fan favorite rather quickly, just because we just love players like Antoine Roussel, Sam Steele, even guys that just put their body on the line and for the betterment of the team. They block shots. He can work in on the penalty kill, and he can give you 10 to 15 minutes a night. And more often than not, he's not going to give up very much. And that's basically what you expect out of your fourth line. I am intrigued as well to see how Dallas kind of treats this fourth line. As much as we thought it was going to be sort of a rotation last season, it was pretty much a steady diet of Faksa, Smith, and Steele. You would have liked to see Dellandrea get in there a bit more just with his offensive upside, but I can acknowledge when he was in, he had some looks, but it's not like he was scoring where you couldn't not have him in the lineup, right? It was one of those things where he wasn't really forcing his way into the lineup. So I'm curious with other guys, even in the AHL, like Blue Mel, players like that who do have some NHL experience, could they possibly come up and fight for some minutes next season? That's where I'll be pretty interested to see what the approach is, because I mean, Oscar Bach is another player that could get some opportunities at next season with injuries and whatnot. But you have a very nice veteran presence on your fourth line with Steele at age 26, Blackwell 31, and it looks like Dadonov may slide in there at 35. So it'll be look, on paper, I mean, just from looking on the outside, doesn't necessarily scream to be a trio that is going to light it up offensively or be really stout in their defensive zone. But look, we'll see how it plays out in training camp, and maybe some other guys, force their way into the lineup. Maybe DeBoer wants to break up Duchene and Sagan possibly, even though that was a very good line. Maybe Dadonov finds himself with Jamie Benn once again. That seems to be a pair that's worked together pretty pretty well over the past few seasons. So there are a lot of different options and routes the Stars can go. And also you have to factor in, is Maverick Bork really just going to slide into the top 6 easily? I think he will. I think he'll sort of establish himself as a guy that will garner some big minutes. But if he struggles in his first full season, maybe he needs to be dropped down the lineup, and then Bork, Steel, and Blackwell are aligned. Bork, Steel, and Dadonov, right? That does give you a little more offensive pop on the back end. If Bork can't handle some of those tougher matchups, maybe you want to drop him in the lineup, get him some easier matchups, and you can create some offensive that way. Maybe it spreads out some of the offense through the lineup by bringing Bork down. Stankoven stays with Ben, and you can kind of muster up some chances that way. And one thing Pete DeBoer was not shy about during last season was sort of changing up the lines. He mixed it up quite a bit, which was a good sign, which I almost wanted to do just for the sake of how many different combinations he can sort of roll with into next season. And not that each team doesn't have these sort of combinations, but those is pretty deep, and they have really nice NHL quality forwards. So I feel like it would almost be doing a disservice by not kind of mixing guys in with certain players, see if there's some chemistry that ignites. And that's what I'll really keep a close eye on during training camp. I want to see what sort of lines are kind of being thrown out there, what that looks like, what sort of combination, especially on the back end, of course, with the D pairings. That is really where I'm going to be keeping close tabs on the Dallas Stars. But I mean, Blackwell's a guy, I think, give you 10, 15 minutes a night. You can PK, and he'll sort of be this year's Sam Steele signing. And that's all you could ask for. And if he chips in 20 points this season, that's good. But they're not going to be relying on him heavy, which is certainly a good sign. But that means they need their big boys up front to do a lot of the damage, which shouldn't be a huge issue. That's for sure. Alrighty, those are some quick season previews on Sam Steele and Colin Blackwell. Again, not the most flashiest players, not going to be lighting up the score sheet this season, but two guys that are really going to play some crucial minutes for Dallas, because DeBoer just kind of wants to roll guys. He doesn't just, let Rope go forever, even though at points during last season he probably should have, not Rope specifically, but Johnston should double shifted him a bit more, get him some more minutes. So these are two key fixtures of the fourth line. That's really quite different for the first time in a while. I know last season it kind of really changed up, but yeah, it's going to have a little different taste to it. So something to certainly keep an eye on heading into next season. Well, some new information got released about the Dallas Stars Hall of Fame induction ceremony. I wanted to get to as well in today's episode, and we'll do that in just a moment. So the Dallas Stars released a press release about their Dallas Stars Hall of Fame induction gala. Larry Fleet will be headlining the Hall of Fame induction ceremony this October, Sunday, October the 20th at 6 p.m. Larry Fleet will be headlining. Country music star. He's got Things I Take for Granted, one of his songs, Where I Find God, Working Man as well. So he will be headlining the Dallas Stars Hall of Fame induction. Of course, this season, it will be Brendan Morrow and Jim Lights. Those are the two that will be nominated in the Dallas Stars Hall of Fame, which is an awesome sign. So Brad Albert said, Larry is one of the most sought-after musicians in country music, and we are thrilled to have him on our stage. His genuine songwriting and authentic sound make it easy for anyone to connect with Larry and his music. He is the perfect complement to help us celebrate the inductions of Brendan Morrow and Jim Lights into the Dallas Stars Hall of Fame. By the way, attendees are encouraged to arrive, just in case you are attending it, to arrive early for the Lexus Walk of Fame, which will feature current Dallas Stars players, Stars Hall of Fame members, and this year's, of course, inductees, Morrow and Lights. And the Walk of Fame will be at 5 p.m. So you can mark your calendars, October the 20th. It's on a Sunday, the Dallas Stars Hall of Fame. And speaking of Brad Alberts, he was on the All City Dallas Stars podcast which just got brought up, which is great stuff with our friend Sam Nessler, Sean Shapiro's over there, Ludwig, and Owen Newkirk as well. They're doing great stuff, and it's nice to have some more coverage of the Dallas Stars. And Brad Alberts was on there, I believe yesterday, maybe a couple days ago, and said some interesting things about Jamie Benn and about how important it is for him to raise a Stanley Cup here in Dallas. So that's not a confirmation he's coming back at the end of next season with his contract expiring after this year. But Brad Alberts is a fan, and look, a lot of a lot of us are fans of Jamie Benn. And it feels like he's going to come back and he'll be a star for his entire career. And hopefully that'll be the case. So, and he also said some more enlightening things about Victory Plus, should be user friendly and all that. They're going to be pumping out great content. Just a couple of days, September 11th, I believe, is the day where you can you can download the Victory Plus app and you can start perusing that thing. So a win for Stars fan in general, and good on Brad Alberts. Of course, the Ducks just joined a few weeks ago. They're now on Victory Plus for this season. So maybe this is short of the tide shifting here in the world of regional sports television, all that good stuff. So yeah, I really encourage you to go take a listen to that as well. It's worth your time, to say the least, when Brad Alberts gets behind the mic. Alrighty, that'll do it for today's episode of Locked On Stars on a Thursday. Thank you, as always, for the love and support. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. Never miss an episode. Drop a comment down below as well. Have a great Thursday. I'll see you on a Monday. We're going to skip the Friday, so we'll see you after the weekend. I'm going to enjoy a long weekend. Games are starting up here. We've got some preseason hockey in the North American Hockey League, so I'll be off and running. And yeah, so good things all the way around. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you on a Monday. So long, Stars fans.